I'm going to start because, as I always say this, I always run out of time. So I'm going to start because, saludar. I guess that means hello. Only Ken Dog. All right. So one of the things, Lucy's all good. Excellent. Mandy, hi there. Welcome. And Asha has just joined as well. So one of the things, I'm very well, thank you, Andrew. So one of the things that we were talking about last week was this idea of this invitation. So normally these conversations are around one topic, and then, you know, we finish the topic and we all go about our lives. But I thought, how can I bring an extra element to this to help people to progress something perhaps that they've been, you know, some creative project that they've been sitting on that they want to start making it move forward. And so I came up with this idea of this like invitation or whatever. And so the invitation each week could be different. I don't know. I'm still sort of working it out. But last week, the invitation was to have a look and see if there was some project or goal that you wanted to achieve, and to declare it to the group so that the group can kind of be a stand for you, or kind of a support or something like that. So a few people, one of whom has just joined, Steve, I see you there, welcome. So a few people declared them. So I thought I would just check in with those guys to see how they're doing. And Geordie0309, welcome. And also to extend the invitation to those that have just joined. If there is a goal that you've been sitting on that you think, I'll do it when. Maybe now is the time. Maybe you want to have a think about what that could be and whether you'd want to sort of declare it in, you know, put a comment in, declare it to the group so that you can start to make it real. Now, the 4 elements, as far as I can make out, that are necessary to make something happen, because having a goal in itself it doesn't have a lot of power to it. There has to be some other parts to it, or some other, components to really make it real. One of them is obviously the goal, knowing really what it is and being specific about it. So rather than I'd like to lose weight, using, you know, weight loss it's an easy example. Rather than I'd like to lose weight, I'd like to lose 3 pounds, or I'd like to be able to bench press a certain amount, or I'd like to be able to run 5k in a certain amount of time. Do you know what I mean? And you can still apply quantities or chunks to creative pursuits. So like, say it was, I want to make a film. Rather than I want to make a film, maybe you can bring it down to chunks like, I want to be in pre-production by this point, or I want to cast my film by da-da-da. Or if it's painting, I want to have acquired the materials that I need for my painting by this point. You know what I mean? So it's not like it has to be numbers, like quantities that you're breaking your project down into, but some sort of natural sort of chunk of process that you can say, and I will do it by this point. So the next point is, as I say, is to put it in time. So you select your goal, then you say when it's going to be done by. You pick a time that you can own that allows you to have breaks and breakdowns and family stuff happen and all the things that just happen that we act like, I didn't see that coming, when really, if we thought about it, that's just life. So allow for life to show up. Don't say you're going to do something in a week if it means that either A, you have to throw every commitment you've made out of the window to a detrimental compromise to yourself, or B, you know you can't own it because you know that there's already stuff already planned that that you have to honor. So pick a time frame that you can own, that really important that you allow yourself breaks and rest time in that, so that you're not flogging yourself for the sake of this thing, unless that's what you are prepared to do, and you've prepared yourself to do it and know that there's a rest period on the other side of it. Joachim and Marshawn, welcome. A little British flag for the wedding. Carly, hello. So the third point is make a stand. So you are making a stand that this thing will happen. It's not a case of I'll see, I'll try. As Yoda says, there is no try. Don't worry about it. If you can't, if try is the language that you're using, then it's not the right time for you. This goal isn't the right. It's not the right goal for you in this time frame. So if try and should and also that sort of language comes in, then don't worry about it. Only pick a goal and a time frame that you can make a stand for and own. You know, it has to be grounded, because sometimes people get excited because they've seen a Tony Robbins thing, or they've been motivated by something. They go, I'm gonna do this thing, and they get all excited, but the commitment that they're making is not grounded. It's not grounded in reality. So make sure that when you when you pick this goal, you ground it that it's something you can really own, and you have a sense of how it's going to happen. You can feel how it's going to happen. And so that comes to my fourth point, is make a plan. So once you've made this commitment in terms of the goal, in terms of the time, in terms of the commitment to do it, then how are you going to do it? The how comes last. That's the very last thing. The stand is way more important than the how. So make the stand and then execute. 5 parts. Execute the whole process. And remember that as well, that planning is not about having a plan as much as it is about being in the mode of planning. So military types will plan an exercise or an attack, or I don't know, whatever it is they do. I've never ever been in the military, but they'll plan their strategy. But the plan is not about the plan is not to create the plan. The planning, should I say, is not about creating the plan. It's about being in that mode of planning so that you're ready for any eventuality. So that's what you want to do with your planning. Anyways, all that is to say, just have a think about if there is something, through the course of this conversation, that there is something that you would like to declare to the group as like, you know what, I've got a goal that I would like to make real. And use us as a resource to kind of support you in that. And by the way, it's an invitation. So it doesn't mean that if you don't want to participate in that your participation here is any less valid. It's just, if there is something that's burning, then this could be a resource for you to help make it happen. So as I say, there was a couple of people that made commitments last week to achieve certain things. One of whom was made a commitment to complete something by this week. So Steve, look, I don't know if you want to put anything in the comments to say how you got on, or do you want to share the screen and just come on and say how you got on? Might be quicker and easier for you. I think you're the only person here, because there was me, Ian, and Amber. Amber can't make it, so tell me what you would like to do. Let me just say hello to a couple of people. So hey Carly, hello. Amelia says, I finished my A-levels in 3 days and been procrastinating for 362 days. That was really helpful. I have a short story left to film. Is there any advice on making it go smoothly? You have 3 weeks. I would say what I just said, those 4/5 key points. Make the goal. The goal is you want to shoot this short story. Set it in time. Well, you've already got that, 3 weeks. Make a stand. This is going to happen. Orientate all your circumstances around the commitment that this will happen. And 3, make a plan. Plan out those whole 3 weeks. Because the great thing about a plan is that the more detailed it gets in terms of each chunk of time, the more you can measure whether you are ahead or behind yourself. Whereas if you just say you made a commitment for something that was like 3 years or something like that, how would you know, unless you've broken those 3 years down into chunks, whether you have any chance of hitting your goals? So I would say just follow those steps. Make a goal, commit it to time, make a stand for yourself, make a plan, and then execute. And know that it's not going to be easy. Let yourself off the hook of thinking that this is somehow going to be easy. Just do everything you can to make it as easy as possible, and know that doesn't make any difference, or that may not make any difference, and that you're ready for it because you've been in the planning mode, so you're prepared for those eventualities, rather than one who assumes it's going to be smooth sailing and then panics when the slightest thing goes wrong. That's all I can offer. I hope that's helpful. And furthermore, you're going to nail it. So there's that. Joe W8, welcome. Rasmus, hey! Okay, so Steve, you're going to share screen. Great. I will accept that when I see that pop up. Amelia says, and I'm not Steven Spielberg. I hope you mean that in a positive way, in the sense of like, there's no pressure. Because... yes, I just hope you mean that in a positive way, like as in, there's no pressure. And Ian Ray 68, welcome. Steve says, I think I need to come out and come back. Okay, all right. So while if you guys are cool to just like digest that the goals thing and just have a think about if there's anything that you would what you want to make a stand for, you know, some creative project that you're working on, then you know just have a think about that, and then we can declare that at the end. Okay, Steve. So this is going to be like kind of brief, just a brief synopsis of what not synopsis, breakdown of basically how it went. You committed to 5 chapters by this Sunday. Okay, so I've never done this before, so let's see how this goes. Waiting for my old RE teacher, it says. So I think you need to accept it. It says it's connecting. This is very exciting. Hello!
Wow, hello, how are you?
Wow, yes, I'm very good, thank you. So tell us how it went.
So I needed to write my chapter 5 of this week for my dissertation. I'd written 4 so far. And I had all my reading prepped up, and I had a couple of things that were due to happen this week that if I'd thought about it, might not have led me to make the commitment I did. One of which was agreeing to help someone build a closet in our basement. And the other one was a personal situation, which we don't need to go into, but you know about. And so I was doing fine. Everything was going along. And what I found was because I'd basically confessed that thing I wanted to do, I can't think of the words you use it, but I'd left it out there into the universe. It really drove me and inspired me because I thought I've made a commitment and I don't want to, let people down. So I really found myself focused on my reading, and it really motivated me. But by Friday, I realized that the reading I'd done and where I was heading wasn't where I should be heading in my chapter. So I hit a bit of a moment where I thought, well, do I kind of say, oh, I didn't make it because, I had a change of circumstances and it's no big deal. I just made a commitment to a group. But then I started to think, well, hang on, I imagined that if this was a paid thing, if I'd actually committed myself to a writing job, I don't really have the opportunity to say, oh, I'm just going to leave it. It's tough. I had to change my mind. Yeah. I thought, no, I've made a commitment and I'm going to really live by this commitment. So I spent about 5 hours yesterday doing some extra reading and really thinking things through. And I ended up writing yesterday, and I wrote a little bit this morning. And I found myself in a better position in terms of that chapter. It's exactly where it should be right now. Yeah. I haven't wasted anything I've done because I can put it into another point. I just was at the wrong stage in my writing. But because I'd allowed myself, and it's exactly what you were just talking about just a moment ago, I gave myself permission to change things that were happening. But I had also the flexibility there to allow myself to do it, because a lot of my reading that I needed to do, I'd kind of done. I just needed to bring myself up to speed with a few extra things. So I'm really pleased with where I've got to. I'm really pleased with where the chapter's heading. It's exactly where it should be at this point. I will have it finished today. I just wasn't able to get it finished for this point. Sure. But it will be done today, no question. I'm 500 words short. So everything you've said last week, everything you said today, like I say, when you get your 12 disciples, then put me down for one.
That's really great news. And I mean, you've touched on a lot of things that we've been talking about anyways, of just like the being in the mode of planning is not necessarily, the plan is not the goal necessarily. So you realize that something wasn't quite right with the plan and you readjusted. But actually, it doesn't sound like it's taken you too far off your target in terms of time.
No, I mean, to be honest, I have 2 years to write this thing. I just want to get it submitted by the middle of August because I want it done. Yeah. So I have a lot of, but I've lost a month in June because of things I'm doing, and I've lost some time in August. So I've really committed myself to actually get this thing written by the first week of July. Right. And I'm not that far off it. But there was a moment this week where I thought, you're writing a novel. You know exactly how this feels. You just get to that point where you think, I want to leave this alone. I'm done with it. And then the second wind kicks in. But the really good thing about it, the thing that took me over the hump was the fact that I'd made a commitment to the group. And said, I really want to get this done by now.
That's
so
brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope that was useful for everyone else watching as well, just to see that it's not necessarily smooth sailing, but that when you're orientated around a stand that you've made for something, it just changes everything. That it becomes less negotiable. So
it gives you there's a tangible energy that happens when you put your flag in the ground. At that point, you've got something you're working towards, and it changes the dynamic of your creative process.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Steve. All right, listen, I'm just gonna end this.
I'm gonna buy now.
But don't go. But yes.
No, I'm not going to buy.
Cool. All right, let me just okay. So it's okay. Good. All right. Now let me just see some comments. So okay. So Paul's just joined. Hello, and Ian Ray 68. And Paul's just saying, glad to hear that you've honored the commitment. And Sly and Tony, welcome. Okay. Joaquim says, thanks for these chats. I have increased my being of service activities. Oh, okay. That's great. That in turn has made me more focused in what I want, and it has given me more opportunities that I never had before. That's fantastic. Okay, so lots in my mind that I'm feeling like I want to address. So Joaquim, that's amazing. And then also, I think when you are of service, it really, there's parts of what you're trying to achieve that get taken care of naturally in the process of you just having your attention elsewhere, i.e. on other people that you're taking care of, or other communities or groups or whatever that you're being of service to or looking after. So I'm not surprised that that's sort of led to increased opportunities for you. Amelia's giving a big well done to Steve. And Asha says, 3 weeks or so ago, I said I'd finish something and you lot could hold me to account if I did. 2 days later, I did it and submitted it to an open submission thing. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. That's amazing. Congratulations, Asha. That's Stab Radish there. And Ryan has joined, Dagenham and proud. Tony says, hi. And Ryan says, hello all. So I think there was loads there in what Steve was saying, just about, this whole idea of just like committing yourself, making a stand for something, orientating your circumstances around that, not being afraid to change your plan, but not use it as an excuse to change your time frame as well. Because as he was saying, he's still gonna finish. He's still going to meet the time frame that he originally committed to, even though his even though his plan changed, which I think is incredible. And also declaring things out loud when it's the right time to is a really powerful thing. Putting it on here or saying it to a friend or committing it to colleagues, sharing your goals or dreams or whatever with colleagues really makes a difference, because it's just like, oh shit, now I've said, now it's out there, now it's real. I was watching a video that a filmmaker made talking about this very thing of like starting the process of making a film, and she said one of the hardest things is getting started. So she just starts by putting money down, because money is such an energy and attention sort of driving thing. Like they say, attention goes where energy flows. Well, money is energy, and once you've committed your money to something, it's funny how things start to orientate themselves in a different way. Like if you put down a deposit for a holiday, suddenly that's when you start thinking about, what am I going to wear and how am I going to get to the airport and blah blah blah. There's so many people that talk about, oh, I want to go to India and I want to visit Japan and I want to go to Australia and but only the people who put the money down are starting to think about visas and where they want to sit on the plane on the way over. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's doing something that is making a stand for your thing, whatever that may be, really makes a huge difference. And declaring it is one of the ways that a stand can start to become real. So Steve says, I think it's also about taking a risk, push yourself, be surprised at what you can achieve. Definitely, like there's a comfort zone that we live within. I've talked about it like in previous sessions, where the brain is really orientated around keeping us safe. And one of the ways it keeps us safe is just by keeping everything the same. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is. But the thing is, if you want to change things, then you have to do things before you feel ready for them sometimes. And sometimes you have to commit to things before you feel so this whole idea of it just felt right, that doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, and it's up to you to decide and discern which ones are which. But sometimes it's like, God, this feels uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It means that some change is afoot, and change, and only through breaking something open, breaking down something, breaking through something. There's a lot of breaking, isn't there? Breakdowns, breakthroughs. That's when change is possible, and that's when you get the things that you want. Because if you didn't have to break these things down, you would already have the thing that you want. If you had the thing you want, you wouldn't have to break anything down. So obviously, to get the thing you want, there's got to be some breakthrough, breakdown, break up, whatever it is. There's got to be something's got to break, basically. Okay, so I think that the only other people that made sort of declarations last week were Amber, who's not here, Steve, who we've just spoken to, Ian. Oh, he said he's going to have a plan by this week. That was his commitment. And Ellen was still thinking of hers. So I'll just leave it there. I made a commitment to finish my first draft of my book by July, but I also within that have committed to 3 chapters every week, which I did this week. And it was tough because yesterday I didn't want to write, but I was sort of matchsticks trying to keep my eyes open and just like get it done, just to keep the momentum going. Anyways, so beyond that, there was one other thing that I wanted to add. So thank you, Steve. Thank you. There was one other thing I wanted to add because on the conversation of networking, just a thought that occurred afterwards in a conversation that I had with somebody else, and it was about we were talking about just getting to know people and giving a shit about people is a way of creating sort of generating your network, and that those people in higher positions, you have to get to know them pretty well before that connection can really make a difference. And one thing that occurred to me afterwards and came up in a conversation was don't utilize those connections before it's the right time, because I've done that certainly before, is where I've worked with somebody who's quite senior in a production company, and I pitched him some ideas and they were terrible. I mean, there was one, I've done it a couple of times actually, and there was one time where the ideas were so bad that literally in the room I was sort of I was pitching sketch show ideas and like sketch characters, and I was sort of leafing through the page, like realizing in the moment, oh my God, that's actually shit. That's terrible. So I think another element, an important element of networking is just be cool. Have those connections in your back pocket. Know that you have access to those people. You have a certain email address or whatever, but don't feel necessarily that you need to use it the moment that you have it, or the moment that you have what you think is a great idea. Sit with it and just see if it's the right time. Really investigate, is it the right time? Or maybe I should wait until my work has gotten to a particular level so that when I do make that, can reach out and make that connection or whatever, they really appreciate the work that I'm reaching out with, rather than that was awkward. Because I'm pretty sure that that's what the conversation was after I left the room with this sketch pitching thingy, because I was mortified afterwards. I just realized how sort of ill prepared I was, and how I'd sort of used luckily I hadn't burnt any bridges and they were nice people, but it could have become that. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan says awesome. And Steve says a trusted buffer between you and your final destination to run ideas by. Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Especially if it's someone really important where you don't know them that well. Luckily, these were people that I knew pretty well, and I knew that ultimately, as long as I proved myself in the future, that I hadn't burned any bridges. But if it is a one-off, say you do as a filmmaker get a shot at pitching to Steven Spielberg, you want to make sure that your stuff is good, that someone else has seen it before you decide that you want to have that FaceTime with that person, whoever that significant person is in your field. So we said we'd have a conversation about freedom this week. And so freedom, I started thinking, like, I don't know why, but the word just popped into my mind, and it felt like it was something important in relation to being a creative. I don't know whether it's just about creative freedom or also personal freedom as well. But in terms of creative freedom, the first thing that I immediately thought of was authenticity, in the sense that, like, was going to say it's at the end, but actually the biggest gift that you can give yourself is creative freedom. Because I think in many industries, especially creative industries, there's a lot of how can I put it? There's a lot of ideas perpetuated about how one should be, what one should produce, and also what's popular. You know, people try to tell you that that's what you should be producing as well. And so if something's working, you know, obviously there's, you know, other derivative expressions of it start to pop up, and it starts to create this idea that, oh, we're all supposed to be doing that. You know, for example, this is America video, you know, it was so popular and so profound, how it made its sort of social impact, that you know, you starting to think, oh, is this what we're all supposed to do now? Like if you were a musician or an actor or a hybrid talent or something. And it's very easy to get swept along with this tide of sort of beliefs, basically telling you that you're supposed to do what that last person did. And sometimes we take them on for ourselves, as in, you know, we're not even, it's not even been imposed on us. We're taking it on, going, oh, that's successful, I have to do that as well now. And I think one of the biggest gifts that we can give ourselves as creatives is to be authentic. And all that really means is being true to what really, really lights you on fire. It isn't and if popular stuff is what you love, if silly, say for example, if you're a comedian, if silly gags is what makes, like puns and one-liners is what makes you laugh, but everyone says no, well, you're supposed to be telling stories, or you're supposed to be like doing ironic whimsy, don't get they've no right to impose that on you, and you don't have to take it on. You will find, everyone finds their place. Every type of comedy has a place, even things that are hybrids. Like you think, oh, hang on, I can't imagine seeing a man inflating giant balloons and combining that with comedy. Well, I've seen that. So you know, there's whatever you can come up with, there will be an audience out there for it. Now, it might not be, if we're talking in the realm of like of comedy, for example, it might not be, the audience might not be the size of the Live at the Apollo, you know, or whatever. Or if you're talking about painters, you know, your work might not end up in the National Gallery, but someone will experience what you do and just go, oh my God, I love how weird and unpredictable and inexplicable what you've done is. So be true to who you are, write your truth, but don't victimize yourself in the sense of, if people don't want it in the quantities and the numbers that you think you deserve, that turn yourself into a victim. It is what it is. You can't predict like how popular something is going to be. Your job as the artist is just to allow creative flow to flow through you and out of you, through the filter that is you, and come out authentically as your own creative expression, if that makes sense. So the way I see it is like, we're all just channeling sort of the universe's energy, but the reason it looks different, what comes out of me as opposed to Steve, as opposed to Ian or Peely, hey Peely, and Ian, who's just joined, welcome. The reason it looks different through each of us is because we are different, and our life's experiences and understandings and beliefs and choices and all the rest of it flavor what that golden sort of creative universal power that comes through us. That's what dictates why it looks different. It's like if you shine a light through a blue gel as opposed to yellow gel or a green gel, you know, that sort of plastic that they put over light. So obviously the light is going to come out red or blue or green. And we're that gel, we're that thing, that golden universal light, or whatever you want to call it, however you want to describe it. We're the gel over the light that changes what the light looks like. And so if you try and copy what somebody else has done, it's like, hang on, wait a second, there's already a blue light over there. This blue light isn't as good because that blue light looks really true. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't know how far we can stretch this analogy, but you get what I'm saying, is that authenticity is freedom, because it means that you're not owing it to anybody. You're not doing it for anybody. You're not trying to be anybody. You're not trying to compete with anybody. You're just being you, and truly being you, finding your place in it all, and knowing that it sits comfortably with you because it is truly you, and you're really truly expressing yourself. Because I think that's one of the gifts of being a creative, is being able to truly authentically express yourself and not be concerned about whether there's a judgment to it. I think there's a real power in that. You hear it a lot with, like, I feel like someone like Matthew McConaughey, who, you know, roll back 15 years and we had a different, totally different perspective on who that guy was. We saw him as the failure to launch, sort of rom-com robot, a handsome guy who's a bit sort of corny, cheesy, and we didn't have a lot of time on room for his, you know, I mean, it was populist, but we didn't like think of him as an artist. And so he had to take himself away, take himself out of the gene pool, as it were, the acting gene pool, and really get present to what he authentically was and what he wanted to really do. And he was away so long that he started to become, in his words, I think it was him that said it, that he started to become a casting director's good idea. Like, ooh, wouldn't that be interesting if you cast Matthew McConaughey in this? And then it became, and then Dallas Buyers Club happened, and Wolf of Wall Street, and the rest is history. And now we see him as this sort of awards-worthy acting artist, when before he was essentially an American sort of Hugh Grant in a way. Not Hugh Grant's probably not the right example, but you know what I'm saying, is that we saw him completely differently. So he got present to his own sort of authentic, what he really wants to create, who he really is, and had to take a risk as well. It's not like there isn't risk involved in these things, but he took a risk and reinvented himself to be more in alignment with who he felt he was. So, all right, what we got here? So Ian, oh, it doesn't matter, you're all good. Steve says, ever seen the guy who does skits with tape over his mouth? Yeah, boy with tape on his face. Yeah, again, where do you even come up with that idea? But there he is doing it, and doing sellout shows in Edinburgh, getting, you know, spots on TV and stuff. So there would have been a time when he started doing that where people were like, dude, what are you doing? And he was just like, well, I got this. So he stuck to his truth. He's essentially bringing mime back to the forefront. I don't know if it was ever popular actually, but he made it popular. Gil CPT has joined, welcome. And Peely, hello, Confabulation says, I went to a Zine workshop today, very much about putting your creativity out there in a simple form. That sounds interesting. Tom has joined. Hello, Tom. Bonsoir. And Paul says, there's that phrase that they say, just be you, everyone else is taken. Yeah, that's like an old Oscar Wilde phrase, just be you, everyone else is taken. And it's so true, and it's so hard to execute, because it's easy to say, and we regurgitate it to each other, but it is a very difficult thing to live in your own authenticity, because there is a fear that it will not be accepted, and a fear of the risk of what can happen if I really show who I truly am. Because we have this, all of us have a little element, a little corner in ourselves called shame, that we feel like, oh, if people really knew what I was like, what I'm like, or something, and I can't really show all of it, you know, or whatever it is. So there's a huge risk, or a sense of, should I say, a feeling, a fear of risk at being yourself. So it's no small task to authentically be you, especially not in your artistic expression, because it lives outside of you. You know, it lives beyond you, because it becomes, you know, a painting, a photograph, a poem, a song, you know, a stand-up routine, whatever it is, it lives outside of you. And once it's out there, it no longer belongs to you. And so people will make assessments and judgments of you based on that extension of you, which is your heart out there on a canvas. Lydia, welcome. Mr. Fresh Laundry, welcome. Danny W3693, hello. Hugh Grant in Paddington 2 is a tour de force. Okay, well, I still haven't seen that, but I will one day. So what else? So there's authenticity. I also think, oh, Steve, when are we ever our true selves? That is too big a conversation. I was having a conversation about that just the other day. I will come back to that at some point though, because I think that's a really interesting question. Another thing that I was thinking about in terms of freedom was the freedom that can be gained from ritual. So I was watching a Facebook video, and it was a conversation. God, I must find out the name of this guy because he's a lot of his videos come up in my feed, and he was having a conversation with this entrepreneur who was saying about how people like Mark Zuckerberg and people like that, they wear the same clothes every day. And he was saying one of the reasons that they do that is because they don't want to waste thinking time on what they're going to wear. I don't mean literally he's putting on the single same t-shirt. I mean, he's just got 10 t-shirts all the same. That's what he means. That really resonated because what he's essentially saying is if you create ritual, you create a framework in which to operate. You actually free up a lot of mental energy, because if you're having cognitive dissonance over what to have for breakfast, how much of you've already wasted so much thinking time by the time you get to sit in front of your computer or your canvas or your camera or whatever. So just ritual can give you a lot more freedom than I think people realize. I think people hold ritual true, and it's so hard to execute because it's easy to say and we regurgitate it to each other, but it is a very difficult thing to live in your own authenticity because there is a fear that it will not be accepted and a fear of the risk of what can happen if I really show who I truly am. Because we have this, all of us have a little element, a little corner in ourselves called shame, that we feel like, oh, if people really knew what I was like, what I'm like or something, and I can't really show all of it, or whatever it is. So there's a huge risk, or a sense of, should I say, a feeling, a fear of risk at being yourself. So it's no small task to authentically be you, especially not in your artistic expression, because it lives outside of you. It lives beyond you, because it becomes, a painting, a photograph, a poem, a song, a stand-up routine, whatever it is, it lives outside of you. And once it's out there, it no longer belongs to you. And so people will make assessments and judgments of you based on that extension of you, which is your heart out there on a canvas. Lydia, welcome. Mr. Fresh Laundry, welcome. Danny W3693, hello. Hugh Grant in Paddington 2 is a tour de force. Okay, well, I still haven't seen that, but I will one day. So what else? So there's authenticity. I also think, Steve, when are we ever our true selves? That is too big a conversation. I was having a conversation about that just the other day. I will come back to that at some point though, because I think that's a really interesting question. Another thing that I was thinking about in terms of freedom was the freedom that can be gained from ritual. So I was watching a Facebook video, and it was a conversation. God, I must find out the name of this guy because a lot of his videos come up in my feed, and he was having a conversation with this entrepreneur who was saying about how people like Mark Zuckerberg and people like that, they wear the same clothes every day. And he was saying one of the reasons that they do that is because they don't want to waste thinking time on what they're going to wear. I don't mean literally he's putting on the single same t-shirt. I mean, he's just got 10 t-shirts all the same. That's what he means. That really resonated because what he's essentially saying is if you create ritual, you create a framework in which to operate. You actually free up a lot of mental energy, because if you're having cognitive dissonance over what to have for breakfast, how much of you've already wasted so much thinking time by the time you get to sit in front of your computer or your canvas or your camera or whatever. So just ritual can give you a lot more freedom than I think people realize. I think people hold the idea of ritual as something that's inhibiting, but actually the more ritual you have, the more freedom you will give yourself, because in the space where there isn't ritual, you have all that freedom, knowing that your rituals have been taken care of, knowing that you did your gym workout already, you had the same breakfast you always had, you've already picked out your clothes, the first part of your day is already taken care of. This guy was saying that he has rituals around the beginning and the end of his day, so that the decision making that he may have to do in his working life, there's no decision making at the beginning and the end of the day, because you've only got a finite number of decisions or a finite amount of time to be making like good decisions. After that, your decision making starts to deteriorate. So he's like, take decision making at the beginning and the end of my day and just save that for the middle chunk of my day. And he says that's how he wins the day. And his phrase, which I really thought was interesting, I'm not sure I agree, but I think it's really interesting, and it might chime with some of you guys, is he says, if you win the first hour of the day, you've won the day. By which he's saying, if you get out of the gates well, then you have a much better chance of achieving the day that you would like to set out to have. That also relates back to goals and the planning. You know, if you know what you want to get out of the day, then you can you've got a North Star to aim towards in your day. Now, that's quite a corporate way of looking at things. Artists don't necessarily always want to do that, but I think there is some value sometimes in being that specific in terms of your approach to your work. On this day, I want to achieve this. On this day, this. Not always. And sometimes you need to give yourself the freedom to just freestyle it, because you don't want to feel hemmed in by, you know, such specific goals. Sorry, excuse me. But sometimes that is just what can get the job done, because not all of what we do is about free flow creativity. Some of it is about deadlines and reworking something, or working in a team, or rediscovering something. You know what I mean? So it's not always about I just fancy creating. It's, you know, it's a business now. Those that are doing it professionally or making money from it, there's more going on than just fancying doing a bit of creating. So ritual, and also to give yourself, oh, hang on, let me just go back to your comments. Tony says, it's only true authenticity that one reinvents oneself away from the norm. I've always thought an easy word is reinventing oneself. It's only true authenticity that one reinvents oneself away from the norm. Well, first of all, what is the norm? But also, I think authenticity is a better word, because reinvent sounds like you're making something, you're creating a you, whereas authenticity is letting the you emerge, the you that's already there emerge. And you know, Steve's question about, you know, when are we ever really our true selves? No, we're never there's never one version of ourselves. There's a sort of a constant that we keep going, an idea of ourselves that we keep going, but that isn't really our true, that, you know, because some days you're not that person, even though it is the sort of, on average, it's the constant you that you present to the world. But there's a you that's a bit of a dickhead, there's a you that's almost angelic, godlike, and everything in between. So I would go with authentic, in that you're just letting what is so emerge from you, and not feeling like you need to fit it into some idea that either society has of you, or you want society to have of you, or that you want to have of yourself. Even those are all those pressures, all those various pressures that we're putting on ourselves sometimes. What we want other people to think of us, what we want to think of ourselves, and I can't remember the third one, but anyway. Peter says, how do you deal with negative reviews when you are being true to yourself? Not that you get any. Well, there's two types of negative. There's like negative that comes from punters, and then there's negative that's like actual, you know, critics writing stuff. And you have to, I think, when it comes to critics, you have to prepare yourself to be disappointed when you read the review. So I think just like going into reading reviews and just being like shocked that it's horrible or not positive, you've only got yourself to blame, because you didn't have to read it. Like some comedians, when they go to Edinburgh, they make a point of saying to their PR, do not show me any reviews. And I remember Josie Long saying that, and saying she just had a blast. She had a really great Edinburgh because she was never under any pressure to be anything other than great. No, but that doesn't sound right, because that makes it sound like she had pressure to be great. She could just enjoy being herself on stage and not worry about who the Observer said this or the Times said that. Negativity, and like, I think the same really applies to negativity in terms of punters hitting you up on social media or whatever it is. It's just like you have to take it with a pinch of salt and just remember that that's just that person's opinion. It means no more or no less than anything else. It's like it's your choice to take it on and make it mean something. Sometimes punters and critics alike say something useful that can feed your work, but you got to be strong in your heart when you look at these things to know that you'll be able to take it whatever it says, and that if it's nice or positive, it's a nice surprise. Like when I did The Miser last year, I did a play. I skim read all the reviews, got a sense of where they were at, which is that basically it was a mediocre show, and then it was only way after the fact that I really went through them and just saw if they'd written anything about me, or, you know, got into the nitty gritty of what they say, because I was, my heart was less on the line then, because it would been a few months since the show, so it wouldn't have hurt me so much. But if I'd read that stuff when, and actually they didn't even write that much about me, but if I'd read it and they had, like, during the course of the show, it might have even just affected my performance. That's no good. That is no good. So Tony Williams just says through, but I'm not sure why. Confabulation says, is it self or selves? I feel like I have many selves for different people, different situations. Absolutely. And I think, I don't know, I mean, it might be semantics to distinguish whether it's self or selves, but we're just this constant, we're just an idea. We're just an idea held together by an idea. We're not really real. Anyways, the only thing real is the material sort of self, material body that we're in. But, you know, I mean, we're going down a route that we we haven't got time for, but yeah, there isn't one self really. It's a manufactured thing. So all you can be is authentic, true to what authentically shows up in that moment. And pretty much people are pretty much consistent with who that is, but it's finding it. Finding what's the thing that my old vocal coach used to say, the thing beneath the thing beneath the thing. So there's the thing is, like, you know, what we want to present into the world, but then there's a bit underneath it which might be the sort of justifications, but there's another layer underneath it that's really our souls, really our true north, our real heart. And that's the thing, that's the place that your art should come from if you want to be authentic and therefore free. Joaquin says, yes, I'll perform a ritual or two. Great. Tom says, Tea Garden got ritual and structure. It's the same with script writing. Create your four walls. It's easier to be creative within that structure. Yeah, and weirdly, I didn't used to think that walls and rules and all the rest of it was helpful to the creative process. But actually, if I said to you guys, all right, take 5 minutes and create something, it would take 5 minutes to decide what to create. But if I say, guys, grab a piece of paper and draw a dog, then everyone can start straight away. So actually, criteria, rules, boundaries, you know, all that sort of stuff is really, really helpful for the creative process. And creating a context in which you're creating, giving yourself a context, should I say, can really help you. And so those rituals that can start the day, or rituals around your work, like, I don't know, if you're a painter, I always clean my brushes, you know, again, before I start work. I don't know if that's a thing that painters would even do, but do you know what I mean? Of just having a ritual that allows you to do your thing. So one of the rituals that I'm trying to bring in is to make admin a separate thing during my working day, so that I don't react to texts and emails and so I don't have this sort of reactive relationship with my sort of, you know, the sort of administration side of my job. And that really makes a difference, because it allows me to just be in a more of a flow. And that's a ritual. It's kind of a ritual. It's kind of a rule, I guess, rather more than the ritual. Frisky says, bless you. Thank you. Tom says, apologies for the typos. No, I think I got it. Keisha's joined. Welcome. Oh, regarding. Okay, all right. That one, yes. All right, now that makes more sense. Okay, okay, 063 is joined. Welcome. Paul says, Madonna said that she doesn't read reviews and that none of them can mean anything good or bad. Yeah, I mean, I think there's something in there of just swerving them. Like, what do they add to your day? I mean, really. And Steve says, I'm constantly amazed at how much creativity begins with a blank page. Yes, yeah, it does, but a blank page with no criteria, no agenda, no context is really hard. It's really, really hard, because all of everything ever is possible, and that's too much for the human brain. Can't comprehend all of everything ever, forever. It's eternally. So it needs some context. Is this a script? Is it a play? Is it a book? Is it a poem? Okay, it's a poem. Cool. Is it about life? Is it about death? Is it a limerick? Do you know what I mean? Like, and then people can start writing. But if you don't have some context, either given to you by the person employing you or paying you, or given to yourself, as I want to write a poem, I just felt a poem come to me, then, oh gosh, it'd be a nightmare. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I just think it would be quite challenging, as opposed to having some sort of boundaries. Tony says, you can't please everyone. Negative reviews come with the territory, surely, as yes lives in the land of no. Yes, I mean, no, you're right. You can't please everyone. I think Peely was just asking how you deal with the ones that aren't so great. You know, it's easy to say you can't please everyone, but actually, you know what it's like. When creators create something, their heart is in what they've created, and so a criticism of that thing can feel very personal, and it takes a lot of personal power to be able to just go, that doesn't matter. It's okay, but also to not become arrogant of like and become, I don't care what anyone says, you know what I mean, like it is. And because we're sensitive creatures, we're constantly in this dance of giving a shit and giving a shit too much, then not giving a shit, and trying to find a balance between all of that. Confabulation says blank pages can be scary. Yes. Tom says writer's greatest fear is a blank page, painter's greatest fear is exactly. Marshall reviewed this discussion this week and gave it 5 stars. I try not to let it go to my head, not let it mean too much. All right, so just a couple of other things. All right, let's see if I can do this. So some of the other freedoms that I think we could afford ourselves as artists, gifts that we can give ourselves: freedom from comparison, freedom from comparing ourselves to our peers. And I struggle with this in the sense of, like, I see somebody doing something somewhere and I'm like, how come I'm not there? And then realize that's their path, and they're on their own path with their own, it has not only their own velocity, as its own trajectory, it has its own direction that's nothing to do with me, and I have no idea what is troubling them or what's great for them or what they wanted, whether it's even the path they want. But you just see the exterior and can so easily turn it into something about what you haven't achieved when you see the exterior of what somebody else has. And who's to say? You see, one of the things that Abraham Hicks says is that we think that life should take us directly to the things that we want, and they're like, no, we want to take you through all these other things, but humans, you think you should just go straight there? Who's to say that the journey that we're going on is not absolutely the right circuitous path that takes us all these different past all these? Maybe you had to meet that person, maybe you had to lose that job, maybe you had to go broke. Look how many times Simon Cowell's gone broke trying to get, now look where he is, you know. So freeing ourselves from comparison to other artists, that there's that somehow there's this idea that there's a place that we're supposed to be at a time, at a specific time, we're supposed to do it by a specific time, giving ourselves freedom from that, because it is made up bullshit. Okay, it's made up. And I don't know where it gets made up, maybe in somewhere in our story and our beliefs that we start to create about our creative lives. We come up with these nonsense ideas about where we should be. And if we see someone else has got there first, we're like, hang on, what am I doing wrong? Oh shit. And then you start like furiously trying to. Freedom from predetermined goals that may have been given to you, passed down from your folks, or judgments of other people around you, goals that you may have imposed on yourself. Oh, I should have done this by this age. You know, Bob Hoskins didn't even start acting until he was 40. Ricky Tomlinson didn't get his first job until he was like 44 or something like that. I saw some woman the other day running the marathons like 80 years old or something. So there's no time frame, and there's no goal that you should achieve in your field. Your goals are as personal to you as is your art, and should be. Your goals should be as authentic as your art is. They should be coming from you, not outside onto you. And it's a disservice to your art to allow other external forces to dictate what you should want, dictate when you should want it, to dictate the route that you should take to get it. I will say it again because I think this is so important, that other people spend so much fucking time telling artists how they should get to their goal, and it is none of their business, and they have no idea where we've come from and why we're making the choices that we're making to get to where we want to get to, because they don't know what's motivating us to get there. So as much as advice and all the rest of it is lovely, especially if you have a friend who happens to be an expert in that particular field, especially if you've asked for it, fine. But remember that it's okay to go thanks to someone who's trying to tell you about how to do your job and how to get to the things that you want. Thanks, but no thanks. I know my path. So on top of that, ideas of what success should look like. You know, actors always are confronted with this thing, like when they tell people who aren't in the industry that they're actors, and people go, oh, what have you been in? As though, and you can feel your value as an actor fall through the floor when they haven't heard of or haven't seen the one episode of whatever it is that you've been in. Or they haven't heard, you know what I mean? Or they haven't seen that play, or you may need to, maybe you mainly do theatre and they don't go to the theatre, so they don't even, you know, they don't even acknowledge your work. So release any thoughts of predetermined and imposed views of what success should look like in your industry. If you're doing it, you're succeeding. If you are doing what you want to do, you're doing what you love, and you're not compromised, and you're not hurting anybody, and you're being authentic, and your goals have authentically come from you, then you have succeeded. And even, who knows whether that's success? That might not be success as you want to define it. It's not for me to say. Isn't that brilliant? You can just define your own success. And freedom, this is a bit of a weird one. You might not feel like this is a freedom, but freedom from the idea that you're going to have a problem-free life, if only. Your life is always going to be full of problems. I'm reading a great book at the moment called, I mentioned it last week, but the subtle art of not giving a. And one of the things that he talks about, and I mentioned this ages ago after I've just come off a Landmark program, was the idea that, you know, people think that if they get rid of their problems, life is going to be okay. No, all that's going to happen is you're going to get sexier problems. You're going to get better problems. The example he uses is a guy begging for change, has money problems. Warren Buffett also has money problems, but Warren Buffett's money problems are not the same as the guy begging for change. He's got better problems. So what you really, and he's also suggesting that the change comes out of problems, about solving your problems. Change and happiness comes out of solving your problems. So you need to put yourself in problems to be able to come out the other side, achieve your goals, and experience your happiness. This is what he's saying. And so free yourself from the idea that your life is going to be problem free, because it ain't. You just want to get yourself sexier problems. So you don't want your problems to be, how am I going to put food on the table? You want your problems to be, how am I going to get my art hung in an amazing exhibition? How am I going to get my photography onto that stock website? How am I going to get my film into that festival? That's what you want your problems to be. Now, how am I going to get my film into that bigger festival? How am I going to finance getting to that festival now that my film's gotten into it? You see how each problem that gets solved creates another problem. Oh, now I've got to get to the Toronto Film Festival. Okay, you get to the Toronto Film Festival. Now I need a PR person. How I've got to interview these PR people. Another problem. Now my film's won an award. Now I've got to try and get a PR person to get it into other. And so it carries on. You will always just get bigger problems if you solve the problems that you've already got. Very quickly, one last thought as well. That this is something that my acting coach says, but also I've heard it said by yoga teachers: how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that is to say, really what I got from that is that just because if you solve a problem, you might not, how you experience the next set of problems might feel exactly the same, because who you are and how you relate to things might not necessarily change. That's pretty consistent. If you have always been someone that gets, feels battered about by life, or if you're always someone that reacts with anger, I sometimes react with, oh, what do people want from me now? You know, I'm always going to experience that. But the thing that what do they want from me now-ing about is going to just be bigger. So freedom from the idea that somehow you're going to be living outside of this emotional experience that you have in relation to your work. You may always be the kind of person that just feels buffeted about by life, feels angry when things don't go their way, feels like, oh, what do they want from me now, when someone asks something of you that you feel like you can't do or whatever. All right, let me just go back. So you have said so much that resonates with spirituality here, but that's how my brain flows. No, I get it. And I hope so, Steve. I really hope so. Tony's like language, and Joaquin says these are not problems; these are just opportunities to learn and grow. Yeah, I mean semantics, right? You get what I'm saying? That they're opportunities, but they're also things to figure out. It's not like you have to take action. You have to be a participant in the development of this opportunity, as you call it, problem, however you want to describe it. You can't just sit on your ass and just assume that you're the PR person is going to offer themselves to you and start working on your film, or whichever example you want to use. So so those are some thoughts just around freedom. I've done it again. I've got 2 minutes to go, and I just want to I'm going to come back on again because I want to just see if anybody wants to throw anything onto the altar and just offer it up, either something that you want to be free from, or some goal that you would like to declare to the group, and have us be a stand for you. Use us as a resource. So Ashley says, thanks, Andy. We're a lucky bunch to have you. Oh, bless you. Give us motivation. For me, it feels like permission in a good way to do my thing. Well, I mean, I'm a resource for you. So however it works for you, it works for me. And I'm really glad that it's had you be able to start to get some things in motion. There's nothing else I want to add. So literally this next bit will be about anyone that just wants to throw anything on the altar in terms of goals that they want to achieve, or things that they feel like in terms of their creative life they want to be free from. I'm just going to let this thing go. You're letting it go. You're letting the universe have it, so you don't have to carry it anymore. So I'm going to end it here, and then I'll come back on. Again, it'll be the usual story, 5 minutes, 5 minutes or so, no more than that. And then yeah, I'll just sign out. So I'll see you on the other side. Basically what I just said. Well, because I never make it in time. One day I will make it. I will complete, and everything will be complete. So yes, anybody just want to throw anything on the altar there? I'm gonna put one. I would like to be free of comparing myself. Comparing myself with others. I'm gonna throw that on the altar there. Steve, you're committing to chapter 6 by when? Let me write that down. I wait with bated breath. Hey, Shayet K, plotting your novel. Okay, confabulations galore. By next Sunday, I'm going to put the Sunday. Does that sound good? So confabulations galore, plotting your novel. When will you be doing that by? Because I'm writing these down, and yeah, I think it's really exciting. Confabulations galore, plotting novel. Okay, and so Paul is gonna record 2 songs. Oh, excellent, for your EP by the 27th. Congrats. Okay, and so Confabulations is gonna, wow, next Sunday is gonna be a big day, man. Jeez. Hello, Shay. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry if I'm messing that up. Oh wow, yeah, that would be really nice. Does it not? Oh, how can we? Yeah, we'll have to find a way that we can share them so others can hear them. This is really exciting. So Steve is going to do another chapter of his book by next Sunday, and what else? Confabulations galore. Remind me of your name again, because you did tell me and I can't remember. Has gonna have plotted your novel by the 27th of May, next Sunday. Oh wait, there's another one. Ash has just joined. Something about has joined as well. Hello. I can't. It doesn't show me the rest of your name. Paul's going to record 2 songs for his EP by next Sunday. Asher will do 1 illustration. Oh, for a dissertation. Sorry. Okay, Steve's doing a dissertation. Sorry, I just froze there because I was like reading the comments. Okay, for my main project, I've ground to a halt on. Okay, so Asha, what's your time frame for that? When's the next illustration by? And Steve, yours is a dissertation. My bad. Dissertation. George. Okay, lovely. Okay, George. Got it. So that's for your masters. Awesome. Any others? No, it was me. I'd frozen. I was like, by next week, Asha is by. Wow, guys, this is like really huge. I love this. I really, really love this. All right then. I think that's it. I don't know. There's not really much more to add to it, is there? We're just gonna push on. I'm committing to 3 chapters of my book by next Sunday as well. So let's just see how we go. And Ian, I don't know if you end up watching this on catch up, we'll catch up with you as well, because you made a commitment to have a plan in place for what you want to achieve by this week. And Ellen as well, you said that you would have some thoughts on that as well. So let's see next week if you have something to bring to the table. Tom's got one as well. He's going to draw a portrait of the late great. Oh, lovely, lovely. When are you going to do that by, Tom? I'm just writing it down. Of Robin Williams. That'll be amazing. I look forward to seeing that by next week as well. Bloody hell, guys, this is kicking off. Anybody else? Any more? Any commitments that people want to just throw out there? And remember as well, make sure it's something you can own, and that you orientate your circumstances around it. That's a really important part of it. And just be in the mode of planning, and just make it happen. Just make whatever you have committed to happen, and let it sit, and just observe yourself as you start to approach your work in this different way. Because you might butt up against certain parts of yourself that you're like, okay, that tries to get in your way or something like that. And forgiving yourself if you don't get there. But let's not have conversations about getting there or not getting there. Let's just get there. We can talk about that afterwards when we don't get there. Good. All right, guys. Well, listen, I think we're good. That's a really exciting set of, and they're so different as well. A dissertation, illustrations, music, novels, another illustration. A drawing. I mean, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Okay, guys, that's it for this week. I will drop a post in the week. Hey, Joaquin. Hey, Marshawn. I'll drop a post in the week just to say what the next topic is going to be. And we probably won't have time to go through each person, because otherwise that'll be the whole session, I think, having that conversation. But let's somehow find a way to share how it went. Or maybe we just do literally 1 minute breakdown. This is what happened. I did it. Yay. Or I didn't do it. Yeah. And then see how that goes. How about weeding? Yeah. I mean, that's a goal. You have to set a time frame for it. You have to have a goal, not just weeding, but I'm going to weed this patch of ground. Well, all feedback? All feedback? Well, I mean, it could be because out of the conversation, we'll certainly make some discoveries. Yeah, tag as many people as whose names you can remember, Tom, so that they get to see it. Or I can repost it in my story or something as well. We'll figure it out. I'll have a think about it during the week, and we'll figure it out. Hey, Chloe, Carly, and Show and Tell. Welcome. And I'm just about to sign off, but Carly, just a few other people just threw some extra things that they want to commit to doing by the end of the week. That's just what happened. And I think we're done. I think we've that was a really we got through a load of stuff. I'm going to sign out now. But I will see you all on Instagram, and I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Bye. Bye, 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 bye.